This Excel demonstration is a few tips on printing. So let's say that you do all kinds of work and then you want to be able to print something to either turn in as an assignment or to hand out in a presentation. So I just want to talk a little bit about some things that you could do. So I'm using the Excel demonstration from creating our frequency distribution, and we're going to print that. So let's go through, and I want to be able to maybe print this whole page. So if I want to print this whole page, I want to start, so let's at least follow some of the rules that we know that we need to do, like putting units on our table. So on here I can say in dollars, the upper class limit in dollars. The other thing I could do is like put an asterisk and to the columns that it applies to and say that these are in dollars. So I'm going to put them there, the class boundary I'm going to say in dollars, because it's always important to have your units next to any of your tables or displays. Oops. In dollars. Frequency is not in dollars, cum frequency is not in dollars, but the midpoint is in dollars. Then the next thing that I would do to try to save some space on a page is I would take these limits. So I would take these columns, starting here. Oops. Starting here, I'd highlight them all the way across from here to the midpoint. And I'd go up here to the top and pick wrap text. So I'd wrap text so that it kind of helps so that I can consolidate those down a little bit. And then I would come back through and adjust them. You could do adjust to fit or whatever to try to adjust these a little bit to narrow up this printing area. So I'm going to see if I can narrow all of these. Upper class boundary. Frequency, it's funny. I'll stretch it out to fit on the one line. And then the midpoint, I'm going to scoot it over so that the in dollars shows up at the bottom. So you can play with it a little bit to make them look nice. Like I said, you could do an auto fit to make sure that they looked good. So let's say I want this whole thing to fit on a page. So let's talk about just general printing. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say File. Before I do that, let me go to page layout and let's make the orientation landscape. So let's go this direction with our orientation since I have a lot of work going left to right. And then I'm going to set up my print area while I'm here. So I'm going to highlight the area that I want to print. So I'm going all the way over to column M. And I'm coming down to all 30 pieces of data, going over to column M. And then I'm going to say print area set. Then I'll go back and let's just see what we've got. So let's go into File, come down to Print. And currently as it stands, this is printed, this would print on 2 pages, and that would be my page 1, and then it actually is printing on 4 pages. So notice at the bottom it's printing on 4 pages, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. And I don't want to turn it in looking like this, and so I would come over here to the side. So I think I've narrowed it up the best I can with that frequency distribution. So I would come over here to the side under the scaling and I'd say fit sheet on 1 page. And it would all fit together. I'd do file print. I think those columns look pretty good. and I would print it at this point. So there's some general ideas about printing. Let's go back and let's say that maybe I only wanted to show somebody my frequency distribution. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to highlight. I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm going to say this is my print area, set print area. And then I'll say File, Print. And everything looks like it prints fine on this page. Right now it's set up, fit sheet on one page. You know, it can, you know, so it's going to print out fine that direction. So you could fit it on the page, or probably before we even did that, it would have worked. So let's see what happens when I say no scaling. So it would have fit on the page and I would have printed it out, turned it in, or handed it out for some kind of presentation. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is what if you had charts or graphs. So I want to move over to this other workbook that I have. So let's see here. So let's say that I want to print this. So the same idea, if I want to turn in all of this information that I used to create this chart, I could highlight the whole thing, make it my print area all the way down here to the bottom, say insert, I'm sorry, not insert, file, I'm going crazy, page layout, print area, set print area. Again, I would change my margins. I would make sure that they're going landscape. And then I can print preview, or I can come in here when I do my file print. And I can look to see what shows up, and the graph shows up and my data shows up on the same thing with no scaling. Everything looks great. It's just going to print out as one page. Lastly, what if I just wanted to print the chart? So I could double click on the chart and I can say File, Print. Uh-oh, my Excel is not responding. Okay, let's give it a second. So come in here and say File, Print, maybe, if Excel will cooperate. And just the graph is there because I clicked on it. So I clicked on it because it's a picture. I can move it to a different page. I can cut it and put it into a Word doc. Right now it's in a portrait orientation. We can come over here and we can move it to a landscape. So we could move it to the landscape to make it sit side by side. I can add text around it. I can move it over into a Word doc. So there's some basic things about printing so that you don't end up just printing things and you've got 4 partial pieces of information that you really wanted all put on one page.